intro to YouTube.
What?
Ask Junior is live.
Yeah, well, Ask Junior is now live.
Hey, everybody, it's Dale Jr. For the Ask Junior segment of the Dale Jr. Download. We're back in the studio again, finally, after a little bit of a break. And today's guest is Phil Parsons, so we're excited to have him. We haven't had him in the room yet, but going to be talking to Phil here in a bit, and that's going to be fun. But you guys have sent all your questions in to Xfinity Racing on Twitter, and Hannah's going to help us sift through those and hope they're good.
Well, the first one is very timely in the sense that you are back in the booth this upcoming weekend with Nashville. So NASCAR and NBC went ahead and tweeted us and said, what song gets you pumped up for race day?
Yeah, I saw that. There's a I was just reading an article about the band Tool. I was a big fan always over the years of that band and their music, and they have a song called The Pot, which I think is pretty good, gets me pumped up. I was reading an article about them in concert recently and how they've sort of held on to their energy and still bring a great show, and that was one of the songs that was mentioned in the article about being something the crowd really was dug into. I'd love to see that live, but any kind of I don't know, any kind of good hard alternative rock or anything like that with a lot of energy is going to get me going. So, but I was wondering, what was the answer for the other drivers? Do you remember? Did you get any information about what the other drivers?
because they put out a clip, right?
Yes,
that was like,
the
I just
drivers
remember seeing quote tweets of they were like, wow, that was not what I expected. And then someone was ragging on Trackhouse because both of them put Pitbull.
No,
of course. Oh, they couldn't pick
as
a different,
the pre-race.
Yeah, well, that's unfortunate. So, I mean, I like Pitbull, but I mean, they couldn't. I'm sure they both would have. Not both.
It was very
of them.
TJ of them.
Yes, very. Yeah. So, that reminds me of when I used to go to Bristol and we used to do the intros. I picked Sum 41 once. Screaming Bloody Murder, I think, is one of the songs that I picked for them. So I would always pick songs that were songs that were going to get me pumped up, man. But it was always interesting because half of the people, you'd hear their song and go, really? That's the one you chose to be your intro at Bristol? You know, and I know sometimes it was pretty funny. Like Jimmy would have a bet with Casey Mears, and they would pick each other's song. Oh, that would get really funny. But I took it pretty serious, man. I was like, man, I want something. I think I did the Who one time.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sitting here trying to remember what
Eminence Front, I think, was my Who song.
Did you do a Three Doors Down song?
I don't
once?
remember.
No.
I don't remember all of them, but I remember Eminence Front. That intro. Yeah. That intro is sick. Gets me going. Okay, that's probably my number one. There you go.
All right. Well, we've kind of talked about this a little bit. This one comes from Trevor Nickel. It says, what road course on the current schedule needs some improvement? It could be racing, amenities, etc. And what road course not on the schedule do you feel like the Cup cars would put a good show on at?
Sonoma needs to. I think Sonoma needs to try to pick the layout that it wants to run and stick with it. But the other thing I think Sonoma ought to do is run when it's green. You guys, we all see the photos of Sonoma when it's green, and it's beautiful. And when we go out there, it's already kind of, the grass is all burnt and it's all kind of tan. But the track can be so beautiful. I mean, y'all seen these pictures, I imagine, right?
I had never seen it until this year.
Oh man,
honestly.
Gorgeous.
Yes.
With the sheep
Ridiculous.
out there, like it's so pretty.
I know. So I think it'd be so cool to see the cars racing in that time of year. I would love to see them try the boot at the Glen. And the only issue with that is the same issue we have with Road America is the length of the lap and the cautions. But they could possibly, under caution, cut using the current course at the Glen and skip the boot under the yellow. But what road course do I think would be cool? I told y'all that I love Brands Hatch. So I don't know. Donington. There's a couple courses. I used to watch the British Touring Car Championship a lot on TV. I was a big fan of Jason Plato, Matt Neal, and so a lot of those tracks that they ran on, they're the road courses. They're really no different than any other road course. But that series was always pretty aggressive and competitive. It'd be cool maybe to go to Australia and race somewhere that the supercars race in a companion event. So that'd be. I think if we went anywhere, I'd try to do something cool, like when we went to Japan. Right, that was a pretty big deal for us to go over there and race. And I think we have the ability to take these cars and send them over there and race it, in front of a different crowd.
I was going to say that was uncanny timing in the sense that as you were talking about Australia, someone from Australia, Carl Hunter Hansen, asked if you've ever driven a V8 supercar, and he's chiming in from down under in Australia.
I did, and I put it on YouTube. If you look it up on YouTube, there's a little clip about 2006. I drove one of Paul Morris's backup cars. They were testing with Russell Engel, and I forget the racetrack we were at, but it was a very small, pretty simple course, and so they had a brand new car they were testing, a new Commodore, and I was driving their older car, and I spent probably 4 hours running laps. It was a ton of fun, and never really drove a car. I was racing, obviously on the other side of the car, so shifting with my left hand and trying to learn how to do that, and I made a bunch of mistakes, but didn't break anything, and had a blast trying to, because I'm such a fan of the series, especially back then, and Paul was nice enough to let us take a couple laps. So you can see, I put that video out on YouTube way back then, and it's still there hanging out, so you can see that.
We're just continuing the trend here of kind of road course discussion. Michael Van Voren said, if asked, would you consider running the Le Mans in Garage 56 entry?
I was asked, and I'll be honest with you, man. I don't. So I was asked if I would be interested in that by some folks that are involved, and I think that they need to have drivers in that car that will devote 100% to the effort. I wouldn't do that. They're going to need a lot of testing. They're going to need their drivers to be willing to do a lot of physical testing, but also a lot of sim work, long days in the sim, and a lot of physical, meetings in, at the track, at the shop with the car, fittings, promotions, sponsored promotions, production days, photo shoots. This is going to be, whoever takes this on will need to be able to commit a big chunk of their time to make it right and do it well. I would not be wanting or willing to do that, all that work, right? Driving the car obviously would be fun, but I also know that car is going to be multiple miles an hour slower than some of the faster cars in the race. I am unaware and uneducated on the proper etiquette on what I need to be doing to try to stay out of their way and give them the best opportunity to complete a corner or navigate a chicane and what have you. They need drivers, I think, that run in IMSA or run in that style of racing who understand where they need to be and where they're supposed to be at all times. And I don't know that, and I'm not going to be able to learn that and adapt, I believe, quickly enough to be able to not only do a good job for the car and the team, but also not impede everything else happening, because you're really not competing against the field or anyone else. You're just out there racing, and the worst thing you can do is to ruin someone else's day or event. So they need. I tell you, a couple guys' names that popped into my head is AJ Allmendinger. He races in IMSA a lot, and I think has a NASCAR background as well. Would be a perfect guy to put in there. Would know exactly what he needs to be doing at all times. I couldn't think of a better guy that would be a quick, competitive driver for that car that would keep them where they need to be. And Boris Said was another name that popped into my mind. I don't know if Boris would be interested in that, but he's another guy that has NASCAR experience, also road course experience, that would understand where he needs to be and what his objective is each time he gets in the car. So there's a lot of names out there. There's going to be a lot of possibilities. Very talented guys. They don't need to be NASCAR drivers. That they could be, V8 supercar racers that have some IMSA experience or some IndyCar experience or so forth. So there's a lot of options out there. But I think AJ would be cool because he would be that one. He would be that NASCAR driver connection that they were looking for. They're wanting to have like a Jamie Johnson or a Jeff Gordon name, but I just don't know that. I just don't know that. At least me and Jeff, I don't think that we would be able to accomplish all of the goals and stay out of trouble. Jimmy might because he's driving the IMSA now, but AJ would be a good name.
And this is the last one coming from Ask Junior, and it comes from our chat. From Josh Seda. It said, with, of course, NASCAR NBC being back in the booth with NASCAR this weekend, and I'm sure you've been asked this before, how difficult can it be sometimes to balance both car owner and the excitement that you have, but also being in the booth and having to keep that neutral perspective? Yeah,
that's gonna be that's gonna always be a challenge when you're an owner of a car on the racetrack and working the broadcast. It's always a challenge because it's not hard. I mean, it's easy for me to not cheer for my cars. I'm not gonna. I can easily temper my excitement and try to shelve my emotion about performance. But when the cars say they're having a battle like Justin Allgaier and Josh Berry had at Charlotte, right? I'm not sure I would be able to, I would have a hard time really not sort of voicing my frustration over how hard they were racing each other. I know everyone loved it. It was a great race, but Justin ended up cutting a tire, having to pit. I would have probably voiced some ownership thoughts, right? And then there's moments when they wreck and race hard and beat and bang with other drivers, right? There was a Justin Allgaier and Ross Chastain at Watkins Glen a couple years ago, and I have to call it down the middle, and I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna say, oh man, Justin wasn't at fault there if he was. I've told all my drivers, we've had them in this room at this table. Look, man, when I'm in the booth, you got to remember I'm not your owner anymore. I'm gonna call this how I see it. If you mess up, I'm gonna say you messed up, and it's gonna be on TV, and that's not gonna be great for you. You're not gonna love it, but that's my job in that moment. But sometimes it can get difficult. I think when there's some controversy, you throw that into the race that involves your cars, you struggle. But the great thing about that is usually having me and Jeff and Rick and Letard in the booth, there's enough people up there that they can see I'm struggling, right? They can see that, man, I'm having a hard time really knowing exactly what I need to say or should say or want to say. Maybe those all three aren't the same thing. And Jeff is in the same scenario sometimes with Harrison, where we can see that we need to take over for a second because this is something, we can say what we think's happening with Harrison and save Jeff from having to go through that and that difficult moment, right? And so that's kind of I think that's a good thing for us when we're up there working together is we all kind of can lean on each other a little bit.
And that is it for this week's Ask Junior.
Those are some really good questions. I enjoyed that. Thank y'all for sending those in. Got me excited about road course racing. So
that never happened before.
Yeah. So appreciate everybody supporting our podcast and sending these questions in is just it's almost like a big thumbs up to what we're doing here. So we appreciate that, your engagement and reaching out to us and helping us create this segment means a lot to me. It's one of my favorite parts about it because I feel like you guys are almost in the room with us as we're live on YouTube. And so it's one of the more enjoyable parts, to be honest with you, when we're sitting in this room. Thank you to Xfinity for everything they do for us, Xfinity X5. If you haven't tried their service, I've got it. I'm a customer and happy customer. It's been very reliable for me. Very fast, does everything I needed to do. We got way more devices than I ever imagined we'd have connected to this stuff. Security cameras, baby cameras, iPads, laptops, cell phones, Apple TVs, everything that is just a pile of stuff connected to all this at our home, and haven't had one outage, no delays, no problems, no need for a service call for 2.5 years. So try it out, Xfinity X5. It's awesome stuff.
That's right. Wi-Fi coverage that delivers the speed your devices need. And everybody, as Dale just said, send your Ask Junior questions to @Xfinity Racing on Twitter each and every week. It means a lot.
Thank you, Xfinity. They're a proud premier partner of NASCAR.